Now I'll talk about the construction of national discourse or national identities, which is obviously a very important aspect of nationalism. Identity can be seen as a fluid or dynamic concept according to many important critics, including Woodek. We can see that identity is now being visualized as a dynamic and fluid concept because individual and collective identities are regularly being enacted, renegotiated, and being reformed regularly based on various socio-cultural conditions. So they are not static as some sections of academic world used to believe in it. So they are being renegotiated and transformed regularly in the contemporary world. So identity, even national identity, is not a fixed concept. It may keep on changing. It's both is flexible and it's both stable in certain ways also. It is important to discuss rather instead of seeing what kind of identity is it that is important, but it is also important to see how and through what these identities become come into being and become more prominent as compared to previous identities or related identities. Uh, in this regard, we need to see that there has to be certain representative social action in the context, which enables us to develop or transform a certain identity. So that context is actually the site where identities are developed. Billig's study of banal nationalism is of some interest here, is some relevance here to everyday representations of the nation, which build an imaginary of national solidarity and belonging, and what kind of tokens are used to show such identity based on national solidarity and belonging. We can see the use of flags, national anthems, colors, and then sporting events between various units of a community or of a nation, symbols on money, popular expressions, patriotic clubs, or community sections, and the use of implied togetherness in the national press are important ways to give identities about a certain nation. Billig claims that nationhood operates as an implicit background for a variety of social practices, political discourses, and cultural products. And that's a point where this kind of discourse or this kind of concept are very important for critical discourse analysts also, and which only needs such discourses needs to be flagged in order to be effectively activated in a society. Such examples can be given in the use of pronouns like we and us. They show or are, they show some kind of togetherness among the people who are being represented by the word we and ours. And this is distinguished from they or them or their as a kind of difference with people belonging to other regional or territorial reality. So in this way, this language can serve as an important marker for our national identity or national togetherness. Woodek argues that the construction and studied on the construction of Austrian national identities by investigating a range of public, semi-public, and quasi-private discourses, and a few key assumptions in the study were that nations are primarily mental constructs which exist in some concrete form in the imaginations of its people. The people who have certain concept of their nation actually believe in it and have a strong corner for such identities for the concept of their nationhood in their mind. And then other assumptions include that national identity includes a set of dispositions, attitudes, and conventions that are largely internalized through socialization and create a national habitus. Habitus is a term used by Bojo in his work, which shows some kind of collective habits or regeneration of the same habits by different people. Nationhood as a form of social identity is produced, transformed, and dismantled through discourses. So, therefore, discourse become a kind of vehicle to see or in sometimes to transform such identities. The systematic, qualitative, and quantitative data was used and analysis were conducted by Woodick to produce results, and it comprised three dimensions of the analysis that's based on content, strategies, and realizations, including both linguistic and otherwise. So, Woodick's study on Austrian national identity was based on three various dimensions of the data: content, what it includes, what strategies have been used to promote some kind of national identity, and what linguistic realizations were employed to generate certain national identity. 5 content related areas were investigated, were found in the study. The first one is the construction of Homo austriacus, which is about overall various aspects of Austrian identity. Then the narration and construction of a shared political past. References to shared political past were shown to be used in order to create a collective or altogether national identity. Then the discursive construction of a shared culture. What kind of shared elements are there in various parts of the Austria, and how they have been emphasized upon these discourses to create a certain national image or identity. Then similarly, discursive construction of shared political present and future, and the discursive construction of a national body, overall image of the nation, were also investigated. Expressions such as to take on something together or to cooperate and stick together frequently occur in such context. And for this purpose, the strategies of perpetuation and justification maintain, support, and reproduce a national identity. Keep on saying that perpetuation, keep on saying that, perpetuate it in the minds of a listener. So this is how national identity is promoted, is created, regenerated, or transformed in the minds of common people. And then we also need the justification, give a rationale why to do it. If government wants to wage a war, they for example, if they want to wage a war against another nation, or if there is an impending crisis and government can foresee it and want to prepare its people for that, they probably would use some kind of a discourse based on the bravery of the nation, of common people overall, the kind of crisis they have been through in the past would be referred to, and if in another situation a nation is going through some kind of economic crisis, they would talk about the kind of simplicity which should be adopted in the lifestyle in order to maintain a healthy society overall as a nation. So in such situations, governments do manipulate through the strategies of perpetuation and justification in order to maintain certain aspects of national identity. In a similar vein, the strategies of justification and legitimization were found to be used in order to refer to the events of the past so that they can be shown as kind of relevant to present also. Critical decisions concerning the present and future have to be justified and legitimized. That's why such strategies are used about justification and legitimization of the events of the past. Then as we see that national identities are continuously constructed and reconstructed and produced discursively, we need to see firstly as imagined community, they are such identities are stable enough because they can allow some kind of cohesion of social groups and their identification. They should be stable enough to make an outsider understand what it is, or what kind of characteristics is made of. It should be stable enough to be identified. At the same time, it needs to be dynamic and flexible enough to be articulated by various actors in various situations, contexts, and for various audiences. Diachronically, such identities are liable to change. They keep on changing because of various political, social, cultural influences. Institutional practices may also conflict with identity imaginaries. For example, we can see that the discourses of sameness focus on various common things, common attributes, habits found among the people of a nation, which make it unique. And at the same time, discourses of differences focus on the difference of that society or that nation with other nations based on various strengths or weaknesses. And these both the discourses of sameness and difference have been very common in recent discourse studies about nationalism also. New dimensions of national identities are also relevant here. The topics of competence in state language, citizenship, and naturalization, commonly subsumed under citizenship, growing interest in recent years. So these topics, state competence, they are very important to be investigated in recent times. National identity also include religious symbols apart from language, so they can also be studied in the studies about critical studies about nationalism or its discourses. Our linguistically informed analytical approach to or perspective on national identities can be very useful to understand them in some kind of useful depth. And it requires to be included online communities also, because we have such powerful social media in the contemporary world, and the sites for such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they have become very interesting sites for research to understand and to reflect or negotiate such identities. And it is actually transforming many individual and national identities. Therefore, we cannot ignore their importance in analyzing national discourses or national identities in the contemporary world.